Good. Most of the bees are either out foraging or they're down here in the hive body. This is where the brood is going to be, down in the big boxes down here. But it is a bit windy today and chilly. We had a cold front come through last night, so there's probably a lot of bees still in the hive. Don't want them to get testy. Don't want to rob them. You never want to harvest during a dearth. A dearth is a time period when the nectar is not flowing for whatever reason, heat, lack of rain, whatever it might be, off season. Try to do it when things are plentiful. There you can see everything's all capped, ready to go. Previous frame wasn't capped, so I gave it back to them. They'll finish that up. So first I usually just try to shake a little. Many will come off. Whatever doesn't, I just gently brush into the hive. Sometimes they get riled up, sometimes they just go with it. You want to make sure it's capped because of moisture content. When it's not capped, it's not ready. It's not at the right moisture content and it'll ferment if you try to harvest it at that point. Same thing. Always on the lookout, make sure the queen's not up here. She's usually not, but I always like to make sure. If they get a little testy, just give them a little bit of smoke. And all that does is mask their pheromones, their alarm pheromones, so they don't get too defensive. But sometimes they do. It depends. Just try to be gentle, slow, methodical. All hives are going to have mites and beetles. Strong hives can take care of them. Give them just a tad bit of smoke. Not too much. You don't want to give them hot smoke. You just want enough to confuse their signals. Still keeping an eye out for the queen. Make sure she's not here. Don't want to hurt her this late in the year. Usually as long as you're slow and gentle, everybody adjusts pretty quickly. Right? That's what evolution's about, adapting and moving on. And so first I lifted the hive to make sure that they had plenty down in their hive body, and it was very, very heavy, so I know they were full of honey. This honey super it's probably about half. It was quite heavy, so it's probably about half full of uncapped honey, which I couldn't take anyway, so I tend to leave them at least a full or a partial honey super for the winter. So they have anywhere from 50 to probably 75 pounds here, and it's usually estimated about 60 to get them through the winter. So I'm just going to close them up. This is called the inner cover. This sticky stuff here is called propolis. This hive is very active. I'm just killing beetles. This hive is very active in producing lots of propolis. Propolis acts as, it seals airtight. It's also somewhat antibacterial, antifungal, so it protects them in several ways. Mostly it's to protect them from the wind in the winter. This hive, interestingly, has they've made their own mouse guard at the entrance and reduced it themselves. So it goes on with this little divot here at the top. And you just want to move slow. Make sure you don't crush any bees along the way. So there's a hole here in the center they can get in and out of. This acts as an extra entrance, which they often use when they're just bringing in tons of honey. And you want to put the lid on in a way that you slide it all the way forward, and so the bees can actually come in and out right here. And it also gives them airflow. You can see I've got popsicle sticks here too. That increases a little bit of airflow in the summer, and you still need airflow in the winter too. So when I first check a hive, especially at the end of the season, you have to break the propolis seal on each of these honey supers. And sometimes there's wax all stuck to each other. It's kind of hard to get them off. And they're heavy. It's about 30 pounds of honey. So then what I do is this first super has a lot of it was on the top, and it has the freshest honey. It's not likely capped, so I usually just put it right back on the hive, give them a little bit of smoke, calm them down. And then I usually give them just a little bit of a lift. Make sure, yes, they are full of honey, so they should be good to go for the winter. I can hear them humming, so I'm going to give them just a little extra so they don't get too upset. So I decided to put this other box back on. There was still a lot of uncapped honey, so I'm just going to let them keep it. I don't know whether I'll harvest it or not. I usually don't like to leave 2 honey supers, but we're just going to see how it goes. So that's it. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, almost 5. There's roughly 30 pounds of honey in each one. They weigh 40 to 50 when you count the wax and the wood and all that. So between 100, 150 pounds. We'll see what it ends up being. And so these are moisture boards. These are what I actually put on the hives in the winter to prevent, during the cold and warmth and condensation from collecting on the lids, which tends to drop back down on them and can kill a cluster in the winter, which we don't want. So I put these moisture boards on, but I also use them when I harvest. It helps keep any unnecessary humidity out, just in case there's a little bit of uncapped honey. I don't want any water absorbed. once the honey is capped, it's pretty much waterproof, but sometimes I poke holes as I'm harvesting and such. So these are just helpful. They're easy to use when I'm keeping the bees out for one, but again, they sort of hedge the bets against any unwanted moisture and fermentation. So that's a wrap.